This program is provided by Universal Genesis.
Picture this. It's late 1843.
Okay.
And you are standing right in the middle of Paris.
Yeah.
The streets are totally muddy. There are no sewers yet. The air is just thick with coal smoke. But the atmosphere, I mean, the vibe is absolutely electric.
Oh, definitely.
You've got secret societies meeting in back rooms, exiled poets arguing in these tiny cafes, and radicals who are literally plotting to overthrow, like, half the governments in Europe.
It was the absolute center of the political universe at the time.
Right.
If you had a dangerous idea in the 19th century, you didn't just stay home, you went to Paris. It was basically the Silicon Valley of revolution.
That's a great way to put it. And stepping out of a carriage into all this chaos is a 25-year-old German guy.
Yep.
He's essentially homeless, jobless, newly married, too.
Yeah, with his new wife.
Right. And he is just one step ahead of the police censors back in Prussia.
It's a very cinematic image, really. And the funny thing is, when we picture this man today, we almost always see the old prophet.
The massive gray beard.
Exactly. The stern face, the heavy books on economic theory, Das Kapital. But that is not who walked into Paris that day. We are meeting young Karl Marx.
This is the origin story.
It is.
So today we're doing a deep dive into a really tight, volatile window, just 2 years, from 1843 to 1845.
Right.
And we've got a stack of biographies and letters here that track exactly how this guy, who was obsessed with abstract philosophy, morphed into a revolutionary focused on hard economics.
And it's a transformation that, honestly, most people miss, or at least they gloss over it.
Because everyone rushes to the Communist Manifesto.
Exactly. But if you look at the trajectory and the sources we have, it is not a straight line.
Yeah.
It's a story of shifting battlegrounds. It's like watching a general trying to figure out who the actual enemy is.
Shifting battlegrounds. I like that.
Yeah, he starts by fighting religion. Then he realizes, okay, that's not the final boss.
Right.
So he moves to fighting the state. And finally, he realizes the actual battlefield is the economic structure itself.
So it's a journey from the heavens down to the government and then finally down to the factory floor.
That is the perfect framework. And it all happens while he is physically bouncing around from Prussia to Paris and eventually getting kicked out to Brussels.
Okay, let's start at the beginning of that map. Before Paris, Marx is back in Prussia, running with this crowd called the Young Hegelians.
Yes.
Now, I have to say, whenever I see the word Hegelian in the notes, I brace myself.
It's intimidating.
German idealism is usually where clarity goes to die.
It can be incredibly dense. I mean, Hegel is not light reading.
Not at all.
But for our purposes today, we really don't need to decode the entire philosophy of Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel.
Thank goodness.
We just need to understand his hierarchy. This is the baseline Marx is starting from.
A hierarchy of what, exactly?
Of truth. So Hegel didn't hate religion. He actually respected it quite a bit.
Okay.
But he placed it on a lower rung of the ladder. He thought religion was a valid way of understanding truth, but it was an uncompleted way. Yeah, like it relied on images, stories, metaphors. Philosophy, in his view, was the adult version. It was pure reason.
Oh, I see. So philosophy is the CEO and religion is middle management.
That's a good analogy.
It does some work, but it doesn't make the final decisions.
In a sense, yes. But here is the danger of that hierarchy, and this is exactly what the young Hegelians, so Marx's drinking buddies and intellectual peers.
Right, the younger generation.
Yeah, this is what they latched onto. Once you say religion is conceptually lower, you imply that it is just a construct.
Oh.
And if it's a construct, well, you can take it apart to see how it works.
And that's what they started doing.
Exactly.
They weren't praying. They were deconstructing.
Very actively.
You have two main characters in the notes here who really influenced Marx during this time. Bruno Bauer and Ludwig Feuerbach.
These were the heavy hitters Marx was learning from in his early 20s.
Let's start with Bauer.
So Bruno Bauer was a theologian, but he started reading the Gospels, the stories of Jesus, like a historian.
Which is dangerous territory.
Very. He argued they weren't divine, unchangeable facts down from heaven.
Right.
He called them historical edits.
Wow. Which in 1840s Prussia must have been absolutely scandalous.
Oh, it was total career suicide.
I bet.
Bauer argued that religion is actually human self-consciousness projected outward.
What does that mean in plain English?
It means we take our own internal thoughts and fears, we build a structure out of them, and we call that structure religion.
Oh, okay.
His goal was to liberate that consciousness. He thought if you could smash the religious myths, humans would win back their own minds.
Okay, and then you have Ludwig Feuerbach, who seems even more aggressive in the sources.
He takes it a step further, yeah.
His big contribution is this concept of projection.
Right. God is a projection of man. That is Feuerbach's core thesis.
Okay.
He argued that humans take their best qualities: love, wisdom, power, justice.
The good stuff.
All the good stuff. And because we are limited beings who make mistakes, we mentally project those perfect qualities into the infinite.
And call that God? So we basically strip ourselves of our good traits, put them on a pedestal, and then bow down to them.
That's exactly it. He called it self-alienation. We say, I am weak, God is strong. I am foolish, God is wise.
Man, that's heavy.
Feuerbach's argument was that to deny God is actually to affirm humanity.
Because you're taking those traits back.
Right. It's about taking those qualities back and owning them as human traits.
I get the logic. It's like looking in a mirror, seeing a better version of yourself, and thinking it's a completely different person.
That's a great way to think about it.
But I do have to ask the so what question here.
Sure.
We're talking about young guys sitting in coffee shops, drinking, debating the nature of the divine.
Yeah.
Why was the Prussian government so terrified of this? Why were they actively censoring these philosophers?
Well, because you are thinking about it from a modern secular perspective. You have to remember, Prussia in the 1830s and 40s was not a modern democracy. It was a monarchy.
By the king.
And the king's power was explicitly justified by divine will. The church supported the state, and the state protected the church.
Ah, okay. The pieces are falling together. So if you prove the Bible is just a book written by guys?
Then the king is just a guy in a fancy hat.
Right.
Criticizing religion was a proxy war.
A proxy war.
Yeah. It was the only way to attack the political order without getting thrown in prison immediately.
Though, as we see, they eventually got in trouble anyway.
They did. But it was fundamentally a project to restore human agency in a world where you were essentially told to obey because God said so.
So Marx is swimming in this water. He's fully on board with the religion is the problem idea.
Completely.
But the sources suggest he didn't stay there very long.
No, he didn't.
He gets a job in a newspaper, the Rheinische Zeitung, the Rhineland News. And suddenly the philosophy lecture ends and reality just punches him in the face.
Reality hits very hard. And this is that first shift in the battleground we talked about.
Right.
Marx isn't just writing about the essence of the Holy Spirit anymore. He becomes a journalist.
Out in the real world.
He's dealing with censorship, daily bureaucracy, and crucially, economic laws.
The notes mention the wood theft laws as a really pivotal moment for him.
Yes.
Which honestly sounds like such a trivial small-town issue.
Yes.
Why does gathering wood matter to the history of communism?
It sounds incredibly small, I know, but it totally shattered his worldview.
How so?
So traditionally, peasants in Germany were allowed to go into the forests and gather fallen wood for fuel.
Just twigs and branches on the ground.
Right. It was a common right, something that had existed for centuries.
Right.
But as industrialization started to creep in, wood became much more valuable.
Oh, I see.
The government passed new laws making that gathering a crime. They called it theft.
Just to protect the landowners.
Exactly, to protect the private interests of the wealthy landowners.
So picking up a stick off the ground
Yeah.
literally became a police matter.
Yes. The state used its police, its courts, and its jailers to punish poor people for simply trying to stay warm.
Wow.
All to protect the assets of the rich.
And this just broke his faith in the state entirely.
Completely. Because remember, Hegel had taught that the state was supposed to be a universal, rational entity.
Which is just fancy talk for a neutral referee.
Exactly. A referee looking out for the common good. But Marx looked at these wood theft trials and saw the state acting not as a referee, but as a bodyguard for the wealthy.
So the problem wasn't just consciousness, like his friends Bauer and Feuerbach thought.
Right.
You couldn't just think your way out of this.
No, you couldn't. He realized that even if every peasant was an enlightened atheist who had reclaimed their projection,
They would still get arrested for picking up wood.
Exactly. The problem wasn't a theological error, it was a political weapon. The machinery of the state was completely rigged.
And because he was writing about this in the newspaper, calling out the government, the walls started closing in.
The Prussian government had zero tolerance for this kind of journalism. Of course.
The newspaper was suppressed, the investors were heavily pressured, and the atmosphere just became impossible to work in.
He was effectively gagged.
Yes.
So we're in late 1843. He grabs his wife, Jenny, and they head to Paris.
And this brings us to the semi-exile.
Semi-exile.
There wasn't an official warrant for his arrest just yet, but he had absolutely no voice left in Germany.
Right.
He went to Paris because it was the only place he could think and write freely.
And what a place to land. We talked about the atmosphere earlier, but let's look at the menu of ideas he finds there. The notes call it a buffet of radicalism.
It really was.
Who is he actually meeting in these cafes?
It is a who's who of 19th century disruption.
Okay.
You had Pierre-Joseph Proudhon. He's the anarchist who famously declared property is theft.
Bold statement.
Very. Then you had the Saint-Simonians and the Fourierists. These were the utopian socialists.
Right, the ones trying to build perfect little communes in the countryside.
Exactly. Peaceful, experimental communities.
Then you have the scary guys, the Blanquists. Yes, the Blanquists were hardcore. They did not want a peaceful commune. They wanted a coup.
A violent overthrow.
Yeah, they believed in violent revolution led by a small, secretive group to just seize power directly.
It sounds chaotic. So many conflicting ideas. Did Marx just pick a team? Like, was he a Blanquist for a month and then an anarchist?
No, and this is what makes Marx Marx.
Okay.
He didn't just join a club. He analyzed them. He looked at all these groups who were demanding equality, demanding the end of private property, and he asked why.
Why are they doing this?
Why are these movements happening right now?
He's treating the revolutionaries as data points.
Exactly. He saw their anger and their demands as symptoms.
Symptoms of what?
He started to think that the political anger was just the surface. There had to be something deeper driving all of it.
And this leads us to the most famous and probably the most misused quote in his entire bibliography.
Oh, without a doubt.
Religion is the opium of the people.
Right. It appears in his text, Contribution to the Critique of Hegel's Philosophy of Reader. Now, be honest, when you hear the word opium in that context, what do you assume he means?
Well, I assume he means it's a drug. Like it makes you stupid. It makes you hallucinate. It's just a trick to keep the masses quiet and delusional.
And that is the standard interpretation. Religion is for idiots.
Right.
But the sources here emphasize that this reading is crucially incomplete.
How so?
You have to read the sentence right before it.
Okay.
He calls religion the sigh of the oppressed creature.
The sigh of the oppressed creature. That sounds surprisingly sympathetic.
It really is. He's analyzing religion as a painkiller.
Oh.
You have to remember, in the 19th century, opium wasn't just a party drug. It was the only heavy-duty medicine they had.
It's what you took during a surgery or when you were dying.
Exactly. It's what you took when you were in absolute agony, just to make the pain stop.
Wow.
Marx is saying that people are suffering so much in the real physical world that they need religion to soothe the pain.
So he's saying religion isn't the cause of the problem.
No.
It's a response to the problem.
Precisely. It's a symptom.
That completely changes the meaning.
It does. If you just take away the opium without fixing the underlying injury, the patient just screams in pain.
Right.
And here is the Paris connection. He realized that communism, all that radical anger he saw in the cafes and the streets, was also a response to suffering.
Wait, really?
Yes. Religion soothes the pain, communism screams about the pain, but both of them spring from the exact same source.
And that source isn't God. And it isn't just the king.
It is the economy.
The economy.
This is the final shift in the battleground.
Religion leads to the state, and the state leads to the economic structure.
He realizes that if you want to fix the opium addiction, and if you want to understand the revolutionary anger, you have to look at the root cause.
Which is?
The everyday misery of the worker.
And this brings us right to the 1844 manuscripts.
Yes, a crucial text.
This is where he starts throwing around the word alienation. Now, we talked about religious alienation earlier, projecting our goodness onto God. How did he apply that concept to a factory?
He takes that philosophical tool he learned from Feuerbach and applies it directly to human labor.
Okay.
In those economic and philosophic manuscripts of 1844, he argues that capitalism alienates the worker in a few different ways. But the most important one is that the worker is alienated from their own life activity.
What does that actually mean, practically?
Yeah.
Alienated from life activity.
Well, think about a craftsman in the Middle Ages, or even an artist today.
Okay.
Say you make a chair. You design it, you select the specific wood, you sand it down, you see the finished product.
It's yours.
Exactly. That chair is a reflection of your skill and your mind. You see yourself in your work.
I follow. It's a very personal process.
But in an industrial factory, you don't make a chair, you pull a lever.
Right.
Or you screw on one specific bolt 500 times an hour.
Over and over.
You don't own the raw materials. You don't own the finished product. And the work itself is completely mind-numbing.
Yeah.
Your work, meaning your actual lifetime, is just a commodity that you sell to the factory owner in order to survive. You are a stranger to your own effort.
So work becomes something you do just to live, rather than being an actual part of living.
Exactly.
You clock in, you turn off your brain, you clock out, and then you go home and try to be a human.
That's it perfectly. He argues that under this system, we are alienated from the products we make, from the act of working itself, and ultimately, we're alienated from each other.
How from each other?
Because we become competitors fighting for limited wages, rather than a cohesive community.
It's fascinating how he repurposed the philosophers we talked about earlier.
It really is.
Like Feuerbach said, we were alienated from our humanity by God. And Marx is saying, no, we are alienated from our humanity by the paycheck.
That is the big breakthrough.
Yeah.
He took this abstract concept from the heavens and he grounded it in the mud of the industrial economy.
Right.
The core problem isn't what you believe, it's how you work.
He moved the diagnosis from the pulpit to the assembly line.
Exactly.
So he's in Paris. He's having these huge realizations. He's writing furiously, putting all these massive pieces together.
Working nonstop.
But this is a thriller, not a quiet biopic. This peaceful writing retreat couldn't last forever.
No, Paris was only a temporary shelter. Marx was writing for a radical German language paper there called Vorwärts.
Which means forward in German.
Yes, and this paper did not pull its punches. It was heavily critical of the Prussian regime back home.
And things finally came to a head in 1845.
They did. There was a failed assassination attempt on the King of Prussia.
Okay, let's pause. Did Marx do it? Was he involved in the assassination?
No. Marx was not an assassin, and our sources are very clear on this nuance.
Oh,
Marx didn't even necessarily write a note saying, hey, great job on the assassination attempt.
Right.
But the paper, Vorwärts, adopted a tone that was broadly sympathetic. They framed the violent attempt as a sign that the Prussian regime was crumbling, that the people were just at a breaking point.
I can imagine the King of Prussia did not appreciate the whole I told you so angle.
Not at all. Prussia was absolutely furious. Now, they couldn't arrest Marx in Paris, obviously. They had no jurisdiction there.
Different country.
But they had serious diplomatic leverage.
Yeah.
They applied massive pressure on the French government. They basically said, look, shut this paper down and get these agitators out, or we have a major diplomatic crisis on our hands.
And France just folded.
France prioritized stability over the free speech of a handful of foreign radicals.
Makes sense.
François Guizot, the French minister, issued the order. The paper was completely shut down, and expulsion orders were issued for all the main contributors, including Marx.
So the semi-exile becomes real, official exile.
Correct. In early 1845, he is officially expelled from France. He is given just 24 hours to leave.
Wow, 24 hours.
Yeah. He packs his bags again. Jenny's actually pregnant at the time, by the way.
Oh, man.
And they move to Brussels.
Out of France entirely.
Yes. And this really marks the end of his early formation. He is no longer just a German philosopher drifting around and debating theology.
Right.
He is now a stateless revolutionary with a very clear, very specific target,
Right.
the economic structure of society.
It is wild to think about how much happened in just those 2 years.
It's an incredible pace.
He arrives in Paris in 1843, debating theology with the young Hegelians, and he leaves in 1845, completely ready to tear down capitalism.
And that is exactly why this period is so critical to understand. If you just skip it, you really don't understand where his later ideas come from.
You just see the old man with the beard.
Right. Marx's superpower wasn't just being angry at the system. There were plenty of angry people in Paris.
The Blanquists, the anarchists.
His superpower was asking why.
Right. When others saw religion, he saw a coping mechanism. When others saw theft laws, he saw economic exclusion.
Exactly. He constantly looked for the root cause beneath the surface symptom. He didn't want to just treat the pain. He wanted to cure the disease.
He realized that debating God or petitioning the king was completely useless if the underlying economic machinery was still grinding people down.
And regardless of what you think of his eventual solutions, his method of diagnosis is fascinating.
It really challenges how we look at problems today.
It does.
We spend so much time fighting over the symptoms, the culture wars, the daily scandals, the surface-level outrage.
We do.
Yeah.
And as I said, whether you agree with Marx's communist solutions or not, and obviously history has a whole lot to say about those solutions.
Of course, we're just looking at his thought process here.
Right, but his method of diagnosis is still a really sharp tool.
Yeah.
It forces you to look at the hidden structure, not just the noisy surface. It forces you to ask, Who actually benefits? How does the system really work? Why are things set up this way?
Which brings us to the thought I want to leave with you, the listener, today.
A good place to end.
Marx looked at the world of 1844. He looked at the intense religious fervor and the radical political anger, and he called both of them symptoms of a deeper underlying suffering.
Right.
So if he were to look at our world today, at our specific distractions, our anxieties, all the things we use to numb ourselves on a daily basis, what would he identify as the opium today?
That's a great question. And more importantly, what is the root pain that we are all trying to medicate?
That is the question to think about. Thanks for jumping into this deep dive with us. We will see you on the next one.
This program is provided by Universal Genesis.